So we've been talking about cells, and we introduced the concept of the different types of cells, prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes include the bacteria, which are single-celled organisms that do not have membrane-bound organelles inside. The eukaryotes are the protists, fungi, plants, and animals. And that kind of brings us to our topic of the domains and kingdoms. When scientists are classifying organisms, they put them into hierarchies in order to tell us what other organisms they may be somewhat like. And the largest of the categories are the domains, and there are three of them. Archaea is the first of those domains. These are all prokaryotic, so there's no nucleus. And they live in extreme environments, very extreme. Places like boiling water, acid, extreme salt, like the Dead Sea or Salt Lake out in Utah, the Great Salt Lake. So these are different from normal bacteria in the fact that they only live in these very extreme environments. Other examples are in ice. These deep sea vents, the water around these deep sea vents, they love to live there, and it's above the temperature of boiling. So it's more than 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Sulfuric springs, acid that is strong enough that if you put your hands in it, it would eat the flesh off your hands. These bacteria live there. So when we say that they live in extreme environments, we mean it. They are sometimes referred to as extremophiles because of their preferred environments. And that again is what separates them from the other normal bacteria. The other bacteria domain is simply that, bacteria. So you have archaea, and then you have bacteria. And these are also prokaryotes, but these can be found everywhere except extreme environments. These are the bacteria that we deal with in our daily lives. So the bacteria that actually help us by living in our gut and helping us do digestion, or the bacteria that hurt us, like the ones that cause strep throat and things like that. So all of the normal bacteria are found in the domain bacteria. And then the final domain is eukarya. And eukarya are all of the eukaryotes. So every other cell on the planet, all those that have a nucleus, fall into this domain. All right, so it includes the protists, the fungi, the plants, and the animals. So everything except bacteria. All right, and so those are our biggest levels of classification. And then we step down a little bit smaller, and that brings us to the 6 kingdoms. Now, these are still really big levels of classification. They have large numbers of organisms in them, but they're just a little smaller than a domain. All right? The first 2 kingdoms are Archaebacteria and Eubacteria. And as the names suggest, this is where we found all of our bacteria, so all of our prokaryotic cells are in these 2. So they are all the prokaryotes, and they are the only prokaryotes, so all of them are prokaryotic. And they are all microscopic, they are all unicellular, so single cells, and they are commonly just called bacteria. But this again includes those that are in the extreme environments and those that are in normal environments, are in these 2 kingdoms. Now then your other kingdoms are all the eukaryotes, and that includes protista, and these are eukaryotic. Most are unicellular, so overwhelmingly protists are single-celled, and there are a few that are multicellular, but they're pretty rare. Most of the ones that you'll hear about and see, like these examples here, these are all single-celled. They have a variety of characteristics, makes them a little bit odd, because some of them are plant-like. So some of them can actually do photosynthesis. Some of them are animal-like. A couple of these things are actually little predators. They will actually hunt down and eat other cells. And some are fungus-like, which means they are decomposers and they help break down dead things. So a little bit of everything is thrown into this kingdom, Protista. So they lack complex organs. Duh, they're only made of a single cell, so they can't have an organ. And then you have the kingdom fungi. Now, as the picture suggests, some of the most common organisms in the kingdom fungi are mushrooms. All right, so they are eukaryotic consumers, so they have to eat their food. And they do not move from place to place. They are stationary. All right, a fungus can be unicellular, but most of them are multicellular. Overwhelmingly, they're multicellular. And they get their nutrition from decomposing dead organisms. So these are some of the things that help take dead things and basically reuse them. It turns them back into nutrients that can go back into the soil so that they decompose completely. So they get rid of the dead things. All right. Kingdom Plantae, that's all of our plants. Plants are stationary. They're multicellular. All of them are multicellular. And they are eukaryotes. And the other thing about them is they do photosynthesis. So these are the organisms that can take sunlight and pull in the energy from that sunlight and turn that sunlight into a usable energy source for the rest of the planet. That's where their key is there. They have cell walls, and most have tissue that is organized into organs and organ systems. Most people don't think about plants as having organs and organ systems, but they do. Just like we do, they have them also. They just look different. All right, so they actually are complex. And then finally, kingdom Animalia. Okay, insects, vertebrates, invertebrates, all these things, Animalia. They are all multicellular. They are also eukaryotic. And all animals are consumers. They eat and digest other organisms for food. Doesn't matter if they kill it themselves and then eat it, or if they're scavengers and something else killed it, or if they only eat plants. Those are still other organisms, and animals have to consume other organisms. Nearly all animals are able to move from place to place, and they have tissues that are organized into organs and complex organ systems. Now notice it says nearly all animals are able to move. There are some animals that don't move from place to place. A quick example would be coral. Coral is actually little tiny animals that live in almost like big apartment complexes. And so they're stuck in their coral reef. All right, but most animals can move. Okay, that's it for the 3 domains in the 6 kingdoms. So let me know if you have any questions.